Dear listener, hello, and welcome to the Deep Sleep Science channel. You can get comfortable now, because this time is just for rest. Together, we'll drift through the quiet, invisible systems that shape your world while you relax. Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic radiation, meaning they are oscillating electric and magnetic fields that travel through space at the speed of light. Different services use different frequency ranges because frequency affects how signals propagate, how well they pass through obstacles, and how much information they can carry. In cities, you are surrounded by many overlapping radio systems, FM and AM broadcasting, cellular networks, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and countless short-range device links. These signals can pass through many building materials, though they weaken with distance and can be absorbed or reflected by metal, thick concrete, and water-heavy materials, including the human body to some extent. The invisible world here is a constant negotiation between transmitter power, antenna design, frequency choice, and the environment. Reflection and scattering create multipath signals, meaning multiple copies arrive with slight time differences. Modern radios use clever techniques like modulation, coding, and channel estimation to reconstruct data reliably. Earth's magnetic field is produced mainly by electric currents in the planet's liquid outer core, where molten iron moves and generates a geodynamo. The field extends far into space, forming the magnetosphere, which interacts with the solar wind, a stream of charged particles from the Sunday. On the ground, the magnetic field is subtle but measurable everywhere, and it is why a compass needle aligns roughly north-south. The field is not perfectly stable. Magnetic north drifts over time, and the field's strength varies by region due to complex internal dynamics and local geology. This field also shapes charged particle motion in near-Earth space, guiding particles along field lines and helping create radiation belts. During strong solar events, disturbances can induce currents in power lines and pipelines. It is a quiet planetary-scale field with very practical consequences. The ionosphere is a region of Earth's upper atmosphere where solar, ultraviolet, and X-ray radiation knocks electrons off atoms and molecules, creating a mix of ions and free electrons. This electrically active layer starts roughly around 60 kilometers altitude and extends hundreds of kilometers upward, changing with day and night and with solar activity. Because it contains free electrons, the ionosphere can refract or reflect certain radio frequencies, especially in the HF range, used for long-distance communication. That is why shortwave radio can bounce over the horizon, with signals skipping between Earth and the ionosphere. Its behavior is dynamic. Solar storms can disturb it, causing radio blackouts or GPS errors. Even on quiet days, the ionosphere changes with sunrise, seasons, and latitude. It is a constantly shifting invisible medium that quietly affects navigation and communications. Cosmic rays are high-energy particles, mostly protons and atomic nuclei, arriving from the Sun, distant stars, and violent events like supernova remnants or active galaxies. When they strike Earth's atmosphere, they collide with air molecules and produce showers of secondary particles. Most primary cosmic rays never reach the ground, but their secondary cascades can. Some of those secondary particles, like muons, are energetic enough to penetrate buildings and even pass through you. This happens continuously, even though you feel nothing at all. Cosmic rays matter because they can affect electronics, especially at high altitude or in space, and they contribute to radiation exposure for airline crews. They also help scientists probe the universe. By studying their energy spectrum and composition, researchers infer the nature of distant accelerators. Background radiation is the low-level ionizing radiation present everywhere, coming from natural sources like radioactive isotopes in rocks such as uranium and thorium, from cosmic rays, and even from potassium-40 inside living things. It is part of the environment, and levels vary by geography and by altitude. Some places have higher natural radiation because of local geology. Granite-rich regions, for example, can produce more. Flying increases exposure because the atmosphere shields you less at cruising altitude, allowing more cosmic ray secondary particles through. This invisible world is monitored using dosimeters and radiation detectors, and it underpins safety standards in medicine, aviation, and industry. Importantly, background does not mean harmless in all contexts. It means baseline, typically low, and managed through risk frameworks. Infrared radiation is electromagnetic energy associated with heat. Objects at everyday temperatures emit infrared continuously, and they also absorb and reflect infrared depending on surface properties like matte versus shiny or dry versus wet. Your body radiates infrared to the room, while also absorbing infrared from warm surfaces, heaters, sunlight, and other people. This exchange affects thermal comfort even when the air temperature is unchanged, which is why standing near a cold window can feel chilly as you radiate heat toward that colder surface. Infrared cameras make this invisible exchange visible by showing temperature patterns on skin, walls, or electronics. Infrared is also used in remote controls, thermal sensors, and many industrial inspections. It reveals heat leaks, insulation gaps, and overheated components that would otherwise stay hidden. Ultraviolet light has shorter wavelengths than visible light, carrying more energy per photon. Most ultraviolet from the sun is filtered by the atmosphere, especially by the ozone layer. Yet enough reaches the surface to affect skin, eyes, and materials. UVB helps your skin produce vitamin D, but it can also damage DNA and increase skin cancer risk. UVA penetrates deeper into skin and contributes to aging and some DNA damage indirectly through reactive molecules. The invisible world of ultraviolet is managed through sunscreen chemistry, clothing weaves, sunglasses, and UV index forecasting. UV also drives important atmospheric chemistry, and it is used intentionally in sterilization with UVC, where high-energy photons disrupt microbial genetic material. Airglow is a faint emission of light from Earth's upper atmosphere caused by chemical reactions involving oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases. Unlike auroras, airglow occurs continuously, day and night, but it is usually too dim for human vision. Sensitive instruments reveal it as a soft glow. Airglow provides scientists with information about atmospheric composition and dynamics. It can serve as a quiet tracer of how the upper atmosphere moves and changes. In a way, it is like a thin, dim signature of chemistry happening high above you. Even when the sky looks perfectly dark, parts of the atmosphere can still be gently shining. Photons are the fundamental particles of electromagnetic radiation, including visible light and invisible forms like infrared and ultraviolet. They carry energy and momentum, and they interact with matter through absorption, emission, or scattering. Invisible photons play crucial roles in heat transfer, chemical reactions, and communication systems, even when human vision is not involved. Many sensors and technologies are, in a practical sense, photon counters tuned to wavelengths you cannot see. In everyday life, the warmth you feel from a surface, the way materials age under sunlight, and the signals moving through the air all depend on photons doing their work. They are simple in description, yet endlessly influential. Much of your modern world is built on controlling how photons move and how they exchange energy. Electromagnetic induction occurs when a changing magnetic field generates an electric current in a conductor. This principle sits underneath much of modern electrical technology. Generators, transformers, and induction cooktops all rely on invisible magnetic field changes to move electrons through circuits. Even when you cannot see anything moving, energy can be transferred and transformed through these shifting fields. Induction is a reason electricity can be produced efficiently on large scales. It is also why power can be stepped up and down for transmission and safety. The invisible part is the field itself, changing in time and carrying the instruction for electrons to flow. What you notice is the light, the heat, or the motion that arrives at the end. Brainwaves are patterns of synchronized electrical activity produced by groups of neurons. Different frequency ranges are associated with various states, such as alertness or sleep. These rhythms reflect collective neural behavior rather than the action of a single cell. The waves are not like water ripples you can see. They are a way of describing timing and coordination in electrical signals across many neurons. Scientists measure them using sensors that detect tiny voltage changes at the scalp. The patterns can shift with attention, relaxation, and stages of sleep. They are a quiet signature of the brain organizing itself in real time. Even without any outward movement, there can be a steady internal rhythm. Action potentials are rapid electrical signals that travel along nerve cells. They happen because ion channels in the cell membrane open and close in a coordinated way, letting charged particles move in and out. This creates a wave of electrical change that propagates down the neuron. The process is fast and reliable, allowing information to move quickly across the nervous system. It happens without visible motion, yet it enables sensation, movement, reflexes, and thought. Action potentials are not continuous electricity like in a wire. They are pulses, each one a brief event. Your body uses these pulses constantly, quietly linking distant parts of you. Most of the time, you only notice the result, not the signal itself. The gut microbiome is a complex ecosystem of trillions of microorganisms living primarily in the intestines. These microbes include bacteria, archaea, viruses, and fungi, many of which have co-evolved with humans over long periods. They help break down dietary components that human enzymes cannot digest, producing metabolites that influence nutrition and energy balance. Some of these byproducts interact with immune cells and intestinal lining tissues. Although invisible, the gut microbiome affects digestion, immune function, and even aspects of brain signaling. Its composition can shift with diet, medication, illness, and environment. It is a living community that changes over time, quietly shaping what your body extracts from food and how it responds to the world. DNA repair is happening constantly because DNA is repeatedly damaged by normal metabolism, radiation, and chemical exposure. Specialized repair mechanisms detect and fix these errors. Different pathways correct different types of damage, from single-base mismatches to broken strands. Most repairs occur rapidly and efficiently. This invisible maintenance preserves genetic integrity and helps prevent mutations from accumulating across cell divisions. Without repair systems, cells would lose reliable instructions over time. The work is quiet, automatic, and continual. It is one of the reasons your tissues can keep functioning day after day. Epigenetic marks are chemical modifications to DNA or associated proteins that influence gene expression without altering the genetic code itself. These marks can be added or removed in response to environmental factors like diet, stress, or exposure, changing how genes are used. Epigenetic regulation operates silently, shaping long-term biological responses and adaptation. It is not a replacement for genetics, but an additional layer that affects which instructions are read more often and which are kept quieter. Some epigenetic patterns can be stable for long periods, while others shift with conditions. The changes are molecular, not visible, yet they can influence how cells behave. In this way, the environment can leave a subtle chemical imprint on how biology runs. Expectation and placebo effects show that expectations can influence physiological outcomes through brain-body pathways. Placebo effects demonstrate that belief can alter pain perception and symptom severity. Neural circuits involving attention, reward, and emotion mediate these effects, releasing endogenous chemicals that affect experience. Although the mechanisms are invisible, measurable changes in brain activity and physiology can accompany expectation-driven responses. This does not mean symptoms are imaginary, but rather that perception and body chemistry can interact in real ways. The brain can adjust how strongly it signals discomfort, and it can change stress and pain-related responses. The effect depends on context, learning, and individual differences. It is a reminder that the mind and body are connected through real, physical pathways. Satellite-based timing and positioning signals come from global navigation systems that rely on radio transmissions carrying precise timestamps. Receivers calculate position by comparing signal arrival times from multiple satellites, which requires nanosecond accuracy. These invisible transmissions continuously shape navigation, mapping, and synchronization across modern infrastructure. Even small timing errors can turn into meaningful position errors because radio signals travel so fast. The system depends on careful clock keeping and on comparing signals from several satellites at once. Many devices quietly do this math all day without calling attention to it. Your phone, cars, airplanes, and networks often rely on this invisible timing backbone. It is a gentle example of how space-based signals quietly support daily life on the ground. Blue light is visible light at the shorter wavelength end of the spectrum, and it has a strong influence on certain light-sensitive cells in the retina that help regulate circadian rhythms. In the evening, when the brain expects darkness, bright blue-rich light can signal daytime and delay the body's internal night. Exposure at night can suppress melatonin and shift sleep timing later for many people, though the effect depends on intensity, timing, duration, and individual sensitivity. That is why two people can respond differently to the same screen brightness. This is a meeting point between biology and technology, because many LEDs and screens peak in blue wavelengths. Night modes and warmer color temperatures exist to reduce that late evening signal without turning light off completely. Circadian rhythms are internal biological cycles roughly aligned to 24 hours, orchestrated by a central clock in the brain and supported by clocks in many organs. Light is the strongest synchronizer, but meals, activity, and temperature also provide timing cues that help keep different body systems aligned. These rhythms influence hormone release, alertness, body temperature, digestion, and immune activity. Cortisol often rises toward morning, helping wakefulness, while melatonin tends to increase at night, supporting sleep readiness. When rhythms are misaligned by shift work, jet lag, or irregular sleep, people can feel fatigue, reduced performance, and mood changes. The invisible world here is a timed pattern of biochemistry that coordinates the day across many systems, even when you are not thinking about it. Air pressure is the force exerted by the weight of the atmosphere, and it changes with altitude and with moving weather systems. Those changes influence how gases expand, how winds move, and how comfortable breathing can feel. Your ears sense pressure differences through the eardrum, and rapid changes during flights, elevators, or storms can cause popping or discomfort. Barometric shifts can also influence how scents disperse and how moisture behaves in the air. In buildings, pressure differences help drive ventilation and airflow through rooms and corridors. Even tiny pressure gradients can move air between spaces and change indoor air quality. It is a mostly unnoticed physical parameter that quietly shapes comfort and exposure. Humidity describes how much water vapor is in the air relative to the air's capacity to hold it, and it strongly affects how the body cools itself. High humidity reduces sweat evaporation, making warm conditions feel hotter, while low humidity increases evaporation and can dry skin and airways. Humidity also changes how particles behave because some aerosols absorb moisture and grow, affecting how they scatter light and how deeply they can penetrate into lungs. It influences static electricity too, since dry air tends to increase static buildup. Indoors, humidity is shaped by ventilation, cooking, showers, and HVAC systems. Managing it can reduce mold risk and improve comfort. It can also affect how long droplets stay airborne or how quickly they settle. Aerosols are tiny solid or liquid particles suspended in air, such as dust, smoke, sea salt, or microscopic droplets. They can remain airborne from minutes to days depending on size, airflow, and humidity, which means exposure can be steady or suddenly spiky. Aerosols scatter and absorb light, which is why haze appears and sunsets can look more vivid after fires or dust events. They matter for health because very small particles can enter deeper lung regions than larger dust. Aerosols influence clouds as well. because certain particles help water vapor condense into droplets. That can affect cloud brightness, lifetime, and precipitation patterns. So an often invisible particle population can shape both local air quality and large-scale climate behavior. PM2.5 refers to particulate matter smaller than 2.5 micrometers in diameter, small enough to reach deep into the lungs. These particles are associated with inflammation, cardiovascular strain, and respiratory issues, especially with long-term exposure. Sources include combustion from vehicle exhaust, power plants, and wildfires, as well as some industrial processes and indoor activities like frying or burning candles. Levels can vary dramatically street to street, depending on traffic patterns and wind. The challenging part is that harmful concentrations are not always obvious by sight or smell. Sensors and models are used to estimate exposure, and filtration plus ventilation strategies can reduce indoor concentrations. It is a clear example of invisible air becoming meaningful in the body. Ultrafine particles are even smaller than PM2.5, often defined as less than 0.1 micrometers, and they can be produced in large numbers by combustion. Vehicle emissions, cooking, and some heating sources can create sharp spikes in ultrafine particle counts. Because of their tiny size, they behave differently. They diffuse rapidly, penetrate indoors easily, and deposit in the respiratory tract in ways that depend on breathing patterns. They can change quickly over minutes, rising and falling with nearby activity. Monitoring them is harder than measuring PM2.5 mass because they weigh very little but exist in huge counts. Research focuses on their health impacts, indoor mitigation, and how urban design can reduce exposure near major roads. The particles may be unseen, but their number can be immense. Volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, are chemicals that evaporate easily at room temperature and come from sources like paints, adhesives, cleaners, air fresheners, furniture finishes, and personal care products. At low levels, VOCs might only be noticeable as a new smell, but certain compounds can irritate eyes and airways, contribute to headaches, or react with ozone to form secondary pollutants. The indoor environment can accumulate VOCs if ventilation is limited, especially after renovations or heavy product use. The invisible dynamic is a constant chemical exchange between materials and air. Off-gassing declines over time for many products, but ongoing sources like fragrances, cleaning, and hobbies can keep VOC levels elevated. In this way, the air inside a room can have a shifting chemistry that you cannot easily see. Carbon dioxide is a normal component of air, and humans exhale it continuously. So indoor levels rise when people share enclosed spaces. In crowded rooms or poorly ventilated spaces, CO2 concentration can climb noticeably above outdoor baseline. At typical indoor levels, CO2 is not usually toxic, but it is a useful proxy for ventilation quality, because higher CO2 often means exhaled air is accumulating. People often report feeling stuffier or less sharp in high CO2 environments, though multiple factors can be involved. Ventilation reduces CO2 by increasing air exchange, whether by opening windows or using mechanical systems. Many workplaces and schools use CO2 monitors to guide ventilation decisions. It turns an invisible gas into a practical tool for healthier indoor spaces. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas produced by incomplete combustion, such as faulty heaters, car exhaust, charcoal grills indoors, or poorly vented appliances. It binds strongly to hemoglobin, reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen, which is why it can become dangerous even when air feels normal. Early symptoms can mimic fatigue or flu, like headache, dizziness, and nausea, making it hard to recognize without a detector. Because it does not reliably irritate airways and cannot be seen, it can accumulate silently. Detectors are essential in homes with combustion sources. Good ventilation and appliance maintenance reduce risk, but monitoring is key because danger depends on concentration and exposure time. It is one of the clearest cases where invisibility and risk combine. Nitrogen dioxide is a reactive gas often produced by combustion, especially from gas stoves and heaters, and it can rise indoors during cooking. Outdoors, it is tied to traffic and industrial emissions, but indoor peaks can occur close to active burners. Nitrogen dioxide can irritate the respiratory system and exacerbate asthma symptoms in susceptible individuals. Concentrations vary based on stove type, ventilation effectiveness, cooking duration, and how sealed the home is. The chemistry continues after cooking because nitrogen dioxide can react with surfaces and other compounds, contributing to indoor pollutant mixtures. Range hoods vented outdoors, and improved airflow can significantly lower indoor peaks. In this way, ordinary cooking can create a brief, unseen chemical event. Ozone is a molecule made of 3 oxygen atoms, and its meaning depends on where it is found. In the stratosphere, it helps shield Earth from ultraviolet radiation. But at ground level, it is a pollutant formed by sunlight-driven reactions involving nitrogen oxides and VOCs. Indoors, ozone can enter from outside or be produced by certain devices marketed as air cleaners. Ozone can irritate lungs, and it also reacts with indoor chemicals and surfaces, producing secondary pollutants such as formaldehyde or ultrafine particles. Its invisibility is deceptive because you may not smell ozone reliably at typical concentrations. Real air cleaning is generally achieved through filtration and ventilation rather than ozone generation. The unseen reactions matter as much as the ozone itself. Radon is a radioactive gas produced from the natural decay of uranium in soil and rock, and it can seep into buildings through foundation cracks, gaps around pipes, and porous construction materials. Because it is colorless and odorless, testing is the only way to know if levels are elevated. Long-term radon exposure increases lung cancer risk, especially for smokers, and the risk depends strongly on concentration and time spent indoors. Radon levels vary by geology, building design, and how air moves through a home. Mitigation often involves improving underfloor ventilation and sealing entry pathways. It is a daily, invisible exposure that can be reduced once it is measured. In many places, the simplest step is simply knowing whether it is present at a concerning level. Static electricity arises when electrons transfer between materials through friction or contact, creating an imbalance of electric charge. That imbalance can remain quietly in place until it is suddenly released, often as a small shock. Dry air makes static buildup more likely because moisture normally helps dissipate excess charge. This is why static shocks are more common in winter or in air-conditioned environments with low humidity. Although static electricity feels abrupt, the electric field responsible for it builds invisibly over time. The same physical principles are used intentionally in industrial processes such as electrostatic painting. Air filtration systems also use controlled static charges to capture particles from airflow. Electrostatic forces are fundamental interactions between electrically charged particles and are responsible for how electrons bind to atoms. They also govern how molecules attract or repel one another, shaping the structure of matter. On everyday scales, these forces explain why dust sticks to screens, plastic wrap clings to containers, and hair can stand on end. These effects result from uneven charge distribution across surfaces rather than visible glue or motion. Despite being invisible, electrostatic forces shape material behavior at both microscopic and macroscopic levels. Engineers rely on them in photocopiers, air purifiers, and material sorting systems. Much of modern technology quietly depends on managing these unseen forces. Brownian motion is the random movement of tiny particles suspended in a fluid, caused by constant collisions with surrounding molecules. It provides visible evidence that molecules are always in motion, even though individual molecules cannot be seen. The effect becomes noticeable only at very small scales, such as pollen grains in water or microscopic dust in air. Larger objects do not show Brownian motion because molecular impacts average out. This phenomenon helped confirm the atomic theory of matter. It remains important in chemistry, biology, and aerosol science. At small scales, constant invisible impacts determine how particles drift and spread. Diffusion is the spontaneous spreading of particles from regions of higher concentration to regions of lower concentration. It occurs in gases, liquids, and even solids, driven by random molecular motion rather than directed flow. Smells spreading through a room, ink dispersing in water, and oxygen moving through lung tissue all rely on diffusion. The process happens without pumps or visible currents at human scales. Diffusion rates depend on temperature, particle size, and the medium involved. Although slow over large distances, diffusion is essential for life and chemistry. Countless processes depend on this quiet, constant redistribution. Osmosis is the movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane from lower solute concentration to higher solute concentration. It is driven by differences in chemical potential, not by conscious control or energy expenditure. In living cells, osmosis helps regulate volume and internal pressure. Too much or too little water movement can cause cells to swell or shrink, disrupting function. Osmosis also plays roles in food preservation, plant hydration, and medical treatments. The water movement itself is invisible, yet its effects are measurable and essential to biological stability. Surface tension arises from cohesive forces between liquid molecules, especially at the boundary between liquid and air. These forces cause liquids to minimize surface area, forming rounded droplets. Surface tension allows small insects to walk on water and causes water to bead on waxy leaves. It also influences how detergents work by lowering tension to improve cleaning. At the molecular level, surface tension reflects an uneven balance of forces acting on surface molecules. This interaction cannot be seen directly, yet it shapes many familiar fluid behaviors. Capillary action occurs when liquid moves through narrow spaces without external force, driven by adhesion to surfaces and cohesion within the liquid. Plants rely on capillary action to draw water upward from roots through tiny vessels, even against gravity. Paper towels and sponges use the same principle to absorb liquids. The process depends on surface chemistry and pore size rather than pumps. Capillary action often happens silently and invisibly. It is important in soil science, biology, and material engineering. Small-scale forces quietly move fluids where larger forces cannot. Convection currents form when fluids move due to density differences caused by temperature variations. Warm fluid becomes less dense and rises, while cooler fluid sinks, creating circulation. In rooms, convection distributes heat from radiators, heaters, or sunlight. In the atmosphere, it drives weather systems and cloud formation. These currents are invisible unless traced by smoke, dust, or other markers. Despite this, they strongly influence comfort, ventilation, effectiveness, and climate behavior. Much large-scale motion begins with tiny temperature differences. Thermal conductivity describes how easily heat passes through a material. Metals conduct heat efficiently, while wood and air conduct it poorly. This is why metal objects feel colder than wood at the same temperature, because they draw heat from your skin more quickly. The sensation comes from invisible energy flow rather than actual temperature difference. Thermal conductivity is central to insulation design and electronics cooling. It also shapes building efficiency and energy use. Heat moves quietly through materials according to these properties. Evaporative cooling occurs when liquid molecules escape into the gas phase, carrying heat energy with them. This lowers the temperature of the remaining liquid and the surface it touches. Sweating cools the body through this process, but its effectiveness depends on humidity. High humidity slows evaporation and reduces cooling efficiency. The energy transfer happens invisibly at the molecular level, yet it strongly affects comfort, weather, and climate systems. Latent heat is energy absorbed or released during a phase change without changing temperature. When ice melts, it absorbs heat while remaining at the same temperature. When water vapor condenses, it releases heat into the surrounding air. This hidden energy exchange plays a major role in weather systems. Storms gain strength from latent heat released during condensation. The energy transfer itself cannot be seen, yet it moves vast amounts of heat through the atmosphere. Cloud condensation nuclei are tiny particles, such as dust, salt, or pollution that water vapor condenses onto to form cloud droplets. Without these nuclei, clouds would struggle to form because pure water vapor requires much higher humidity to condense. These particles are usually invisible individually, yet they influence cloud brightness, lifetime, and rainfall patterns. Small changes in particle concentration can alter large cloud systems. This links microscopic aerosols to large-scale climate effects. Airglow is a faint emission of light from Earth's upper atmosphere, caused by chemical reactions involving oxygen, nitrogen, and other gases. Unlike auroras, airglow occurs continuously, day and night. It is usually too dim for human vision, though sensitive instruments can detect it. The glow reveals information about atmospheric composition and motion. It shows that the upper atmosphere is chemically active even in calm conditions. Invisible reactions quietly produce light far above the surface. The greenhouse effect occurs when certain gases absorb and re-emit infrared radiation, trapping heat near Earth's surface. Molecules such as carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor interact with infrared energy in specific ways determined by their structure. This invisible radiative balance sets Earth's average temperature. It also influences long-term climate stability. Without this effect, the planet would be far colder. Heat retention happens through unseen exchanges of radiation. Water vapor is the gaseous form of water and is invisible under most conditions. It plays a dominant role in weather and heat transfer throughout the atmosphere. Water vapor absorbs infrared radiation and contributes to cloud formation. Through evaporation and condensation, it transports energy vertically and horizontally. Despite being unseen, it is the most abundant greenhouse gas. It acts as a powerful regulator of atmospheric behavior. Much of weather's energy moves through water vapor. Methane is a colorless, odorless gas produced by biological processes, fossil fuel extraction, and natural wetlands. Although present in much lower concentrations than carbon dioxide, it absorbs infrared radiation very efficiently. This gives methane a strong warming influence relative to its abundance. Its sources and sinks operate invisibly across land, water, and infrastructure. Monitoring methane is important for climate science. Reducing emissions can have relatively rapid effects on warming trends. Sound waves are mechanical pressure vibrations that travel through a medium such as air, water, or solid materials. They consist of alternating regions of compression and rarefaction that move outward from a vibrating source. Although sound feels immediate to our ears, the waves themselves are invisible movements of molecules transferring energy. Different frequencies correspond to different pitches, while amplitude relates to loudness. Sound behaves differently depending on the medium it travels through. Temperature, humidity, and obstacles can bend, reflect, or weaken sound waves. Entire acoustic environments are shaped by these unseen motions. Infrasound refers to sound waves with frequencies below the threshold of human hearing, typically under 20 Hz. These waves can travel vast distances with very little loss of energy. Natural sources include ocean waves, volcanic activity, earthquakes, and severe storms. Human-made sources include heavy machinery, traffic, and large ventilation systems. While infrasound is not consciously heard, it can sometimes be sensed as pressure or unease. Scientists use infrasound monitoring to detect distant natural events. The planet is constantly vibrating below the range of hearing. Ultrasound consists of sound waves above the range of human hearing. These high-frequency vibrations are widely used in medicine, industry, and cleaning processes. In medical imaging, ultrasound relies on echoes reflecting from tissues of different densities. This allows internal structures to be visualized without ionizing radiation. In industry, ultrasound reveals internal flaws in materials. Although the waves themselves are invisible, their interactions expose hidden structures. Information travels through matter without visible disturbance. Buildings constantly experience low-level vibrations from traffic, machinery, wind, and human activity. These vibrations move through beams, floors, and walls as mechanical waves. Most of them are far below conscious perception. Over time, however, they can influence comfort, noise perception, and structural fatigue. Engineers measure and model vibration behavior to improve building design. Sensitive equipment may require isolation from these constant motions. Invisible shaking quietly accompanies daily life. Seismic microtremors are continuous, low-amplitude ground vibrations present even without earthquakes. They originate from ocean waves, atmospheric disturbances, and human activity. These tremors are usually undetectable without sensitive instruments. Despite their subtlety, they contain information about subsurface structures and soil properties. Geophysicists analyze microtremors to study Earth's interior. They also help assess seismic risk in populated areas. The ground is never truly still. Electromagnetic induction occurs when a changing magnetic field generates an electric current in a conductor. This principle underlies much of modern electrical technology. Generators convert mechanical motion into electrical energy through induction. Transformers use it to change voltage levels efficiently. Induction cooktops heat cookware without direct contact. Although magnetic fields cannot be seen, their effects are reliable and measurable. Power flows through invisible field changes. Electric fields exist around charged objects and energized conductors. They represent regions where electric forces act on other charges. These fields are present in everyday environments, especially near wiring and electronic devices. Field strength decreases rapidly with distance, making exposure highly localized. Although invisible, electric fields influence how circuits function. They guide electrons through pathways that enable technology. Modern infrastructure depends on managing these unseen forces. When electric current flows through a wire or device, it generates a magnetic field around it. Household appliances produce localized magnetic fields during operation. The strength of these fields depends on current and design. Levels usually fall quickly with distance from the source. Although unseen, these fields are measured and regulated for safety. They also interact with nearby materials and electronics. Magnetism quietly accompanies everyday electricity use. Semiconductors control the flow of electrons through materials like silicon, using carefully engineered electric fields. These materials can act as conductors or insulators, depending on conditions. Billions of microscopic switches inside processors open and close every second. This enables computation, memory storage, and communication. The switching happens invisibly at nanometer scales. Timing and precision are extraordinarily controlled. Modern digital life rests on this hidden choreography. Photons are the fundamental particles of electromagnetic radiation, including visible light and invisible forms like infrared and ultraviolet. They carry energy and momentum without mass. Photons interact with matter through absorption, emission, and scattering. Invisible photons are responsible for heat transfer and chemical reactions. Communication systems rely on controlled photon streams. Even when light cannot be seen, photons are still present. Energy moves quietly through space in this form. Airborne chemical cues are molecules that travel through air and bind to receptors in the nose, creating the sense of smell. Even extremely small concentrations can trigger perception. This makes smell one of the most sensitive human senses. These molecules disperse, dilute, and react with the environment. They influence memory, emotion, and behavior. The signals are invisible yet powerful. Tiny chemical traces shape experience. Much of what we perceive as taste actually depends on smell. Volatile compounds from food travel from the mouth to the nose during eating. When smell is reduced, foods often seem bland. Taste buds alone detect only basic flavors. The richness of flavor comes from combined chemical sensing. This integration happens automatically and invisibly. Flavor perception emerges from unseen interactions. Many animals rely on chemical signaling to communicate information about territory, identity, or reproductive status. These signals can be released into air, water, or surfaces. Some persist for long periods, while others disperse quickly. Humans are often unaware of these cues, yet they strongly shape animal behavior and social structure. Entire ecosystems depend on chemical messaging. Communication occurs without sound or sight. Hormones are chemical messengers released into the bloodstream to coordinate processes across the body. They act on specific receptors in distant tissues. Hormonal signaling regulates growth, metabolism, mood, and reproduction. Effects may unfold over minutes, hours, or longer timescales. This communication happens continuously and invisibly. Multiple systems are synchronized through chemistry. Balance depends on precise regulation. Adrenaline is released during stress or excitement, preparing the body for rapid action. It increases heart rate, redirects blood flow, and heightens alertness. These changes occur within seconds of release. Muscles receive more oxygen and energy. The chemical signal travels invisibly through the bloodstream. Physical readiness appears before conscious awareness. The body responds before the mind catches up. Cortisol follows a daily rhythm, typically rising in the morning and declining throughout the day. This cycle supports energy availability and stress regulation. Cortisol also influences immune activity and metabolism. Disruption of its timing can affect sleep and mood. The rhythm operates quietly in the background. Time-based chemistry shapes daily function. Internal clocks guide hormonal flow. Insulin regulates how cells absorb glucose from the bloodstream after meals. It signals cells to take in sugar for energy or storage. Proper signaling keeps blood glucose within a healthy range. When signaling is impaired, glucose regulation fails. This invisible communication underlies metabolic health. Meals trigger cascades of molecular messages. Energy balance depends on timely signaling. Thyroid hormones influence how quickly cells convert nutrients into usable energy. They help regulate metabolic rate, body temperature, and heart function. Even small changes in thyroid hormone levels can affect many organs at once. These hormones act by altering gene expression inside cells. Their influence unfolds gradually rather than instantly. The signaling is invisible but systemic. Daily energy balance quietly depends on this regulation. Neurotransmitters are chemicals released between neurons at synapses, allowing nerve cells to communicate. They can excite, or inhibit electrical activity in target cells. Different neurotransmitters shape mood, attention, movement, and perception. Their release and reuptake happen in milliseconds. Billions of these exchanges occur each day. No visible motion accompanies the process. Thought and sensation emerge from this silent chemistry. The vagus nerve connects the brain to many internal organs, carrying both sensory information and regulatory signals. It influences heart rate, digestion, inflammation, and stress responses. Much of its activity occurs outside conscious awareness. Signals travel in both directions along this pathway. The nerve helps coordinate calm states in the body. Its effects are gradual and cumulative. A quiet neural highway links mind and body. The gut microbiome is a dense ecosystem of microorganisms living mainly in the intestines. These microbes help break down food components that human enzymes cannot digest. They produce metabolites that influence nutrition and immune function. Some of their products interact with the nervous system. The community changes with diet, illness, and environment. All of this activity is invisible to perception. Internal ecosystems shape health from within. Short-chain fatty acids are produced when gut bacteria ferment dietary fiber. They provide energy for intestinal cells and help maintain the gut barrier. These molecules also influence immune responses and inflammation. Their levels depend on both diet and microbial composition. Small changes can affect systemic health. The chemistry happens quietly after meals. Invisible byproducts carry wide effects. The skin microbiome consists of diverse microbes living on the skin's surface and within hair follicles. Different areas host different communities depending on moisture and oil levels. These microbes interact with immune defenses and skin cells. They help prevent harmful organisms from taking hold. Disruptions can contribute to skin conditions. Their presence is unnoticed in daily life. An unseen layer supports the body's barrier. The oral microbiome includes hundreds of microbial species living on teeth, gums, tongue, and saliva. These organisms form structured communities, such as dental plaque. They participate in early digestion and influence oral health. Imbalances can lead to cavities and gum disease. Daily habits shape this ecosystem. Chemical exchanges occur constantly in the mouth. Invisible populations affect overall health. Biofilms are organized communities of microorganisms embedded in a protective matrix. They adhere to surfaces like teeth, pipes, and medical devices. The matrix shields microbes from environmental stress. This makes biofilms more resistant than free-floating cells. They can form gradually without visible signs. Their presence alters material and biological systems. Structure emerges at microscopic scales. Immune surveillance refers to the constant monitoring performed by immune cells. These cells patrol tissues, searching for pathogens or abnormal cells. Recognition relies on molecular patterns rather than sight. Most detection and response happens without symptoms. Only larger reactions become noticeable. The system operates continuously. Protection is maintained quietly. Inflammation is a coordinated response involving immune cells, signaling molecules, and blood vessels. Short-term inflammation helps fight infection and repair damage. Chronic inflammation can harm tissues over time. Molecular signals drive these processes at small scales. Symptoms appear only when activity crosses thresholds. Much signaling remains unseen. Balance determines outcome. Histamine is released by immune cells during allergic reactions and inflammation. It increases blood vessel permeability and stimulates nerve endings. This leads to redness, swelling, and itching. Release can happen rapidly after exposure. Effects depend on receptor sensitivity and distribution. The chemical action itself is invisible. Small molecules trigger noticeable sensations. Antibodies are proteins produced by immune cells to bind specific targets. They recognize viruses, bacteria, and toxins with high specificity. Binding can neutralize threats or mark them for destruction. Antibodies circulate continuously in the bloodstream. Their production adapts over time. Defense operates at molecular scales. Protection accumulates quietly. The complement system is a cascade of proteins that enhance immune responses. Once activated, it can promote inflammation or directly damage pathogens. Activation proceeds through sequential chemical steps. Most activity remains unnoticed unless strongly triggered. The system amplifies initial detection. Invisible reactions create effective defense. Cascades unfold rapidly. Blood pressure regulation relies on sensors, hormones, and neural signals. Specialized receptors detect changes in vessel stretch. The brain adjusts heart output and vessel diameter accordingly. These adjustments happen moment by moment. Conscious awareness is not required. Flow is maintained despite constant change. Nitric oxide is a gaseous signaling molecule produced by blood vessel lining cells. It causes smooth muscle relaxation and vessel widening. This increases blood flow to tissues. The molecule diffuses rapidly and is short-lived. Despite its simplicity, its effects are crucial. Regulation occurs continuously. Gas molecules quietly guide circulation. Microcirculation describes blood flow through the smallest vessels in the body. Capillaries deliver oxygen and nutrients directly to tissues. Waste products are removed at this scale. Changes can influence healing and temperature regulation. These shifts are not directly felt. Flow patterns adapt constantly. Life is sustained in the smallest channels. Oxygen moves from the air in the lungs into the bloodstream by simple diffusion across extremely thin membranes. This exchange depends on concentration differences rather than active pumping. Millions of tiny air sacs provide a vast surface area for this process. Each breath renews the gradient that drives oxygen inward. The movement happens silently and continuously. Life depends on this steady molecular flow. Awareness is not required for it to work. Carbon dioxide travels from body tissues back to the lungs for removal through exhalation. Its concentration influences breathing rate through chemical sensors in the blood and brain. Small changes trigger automatic adjustments in ventilation. This regulation keeps blood chemistry stable. The process unfolds without conscious control. Gas exchange remains balanced, moment to moment. Quiet chemistry governs breathing. Blood pH is maintained within a narrow range through buffering systems. Chemical buffers, lung function, and kidney activity work together to stabilize acidity. Even small deviations can disrupt cellular processes. Adjustments happen continuously in the background. No sensation accompanies most corrections. Stability emerges from constant invisible reactions. Balance protects delicate chemistry. Electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, and calcium carry electrical charge in body fluids. They create gradients across cell membranes. These gradients enable nerve impulses and muscle contraction. Concentrations are tightly regulated. Minor imbalances can have noticeable effects. Ionic movement occurs invisibly at cellular boundaries. Order is maintained through constant adjustment. Action potentials are rapid electrical signals traveling along nerve cells. They arise from coordinated opening and closing of ion channels. Each signal follows an all-or-nothing pattern. Information moves quickly without visible motion. Billions of these signals occur every day. Communication flows silently through networks. Thought and movement depend on this precision. Brainwaves reflect synchronized electrical activity across groups of neurons. Different frequency patterns are associated with different mental states. These rhythms shift gradually rather than abruptly. They represent collective behavior rather than individual signals. Measurement requires sensitive instruments. The activity itself cannot be seen. Conscious states emerge from coordinated timing. Proprioception provides a sense of body position and movement. Receptors in muscles and joints send continuous feedback to the brain. This allows smooth, coordinated motion without visual monitoring. Adjustments happen instantly and automatically. The system operates below awareness. Balance and precision rely on it. Orientation is maintained quietly. The vestibular system in the inner ear detects head movement and orientation. Fluid-filled canals and tiny hair cells convert motion into neural signals. This information stabilizes vision and posture. Conflicting signals can cause dizziness or motion sickness. Most operation goes unnoticed. Movement feels natural because of it. Equilibrium is preserved invisibly. Microscopic airflow patterns form around faces and within rooms. Temperature differences, breathing, and object placement shape these flows. They influence how particles and odors move. Even slight drafts can redirect airstreams. These patterns shift constantly. Visualization requires tracers or models. Air moves quietly around us. Mucociliary clearance protects the respiratory tract by trapping particles in mucus. Tiny cilia move this mucus toward the throat for removal. The process runs continuously without effort. It reduces infection risk and keeps airways clear. Impairment leads to buildup of debris. Protection happens unseen. Motion persists at microscopic scales. Enzymes accelerate chemical reactions essential for life. They lower activation energy and increase reaction speed. Each enzyme is highly specific to its target. Digestion, repair, and metabolism rely on them. Activity occurs at molecular scales. Reactions proceed invisibly. Life's chemistry depends on efficiency. ATP serves as the primary energy carrier in cells. It is produced mainly in mitochondria through linked chemical reactions. Energy is stored and released by breaking chemical bonds. ATP is constantly regenerated and consumed. Turnover is rapid and continuous. No visible sign accompanies this flow. Cellular work is quietly powered. Oxidative stress arises when reactive molecules exceed protective capacity. These molecules form during normal metabolism and environmental exposure. At controlled levels, they play useful roles. Excess causes molecular damage. Antioxidant systems counterbalance them. The struggle happens invisibly. Balance determines long-term effects. Antioxidant systems neutralize reactive species before damage occurs. Enzymes and small molecules work together in this defense. Activity continues constantly inside cells. Protection adapts to changing conditions. Failure leads to accumulated damage. The chemistry remains unseen. Stability is maintained silently. DNA repair mechanisms correct damage to genetic material. Errors arise from radiation, chemicals, and normal metabolism. Specialized pathways detect and fix these changes. Most repairs occur quickly and efficiently. Genetic integrity is preserved without awareness. Maintenance is continuous. Information is protected quietly. Epigenetic marks modify how genes are expressed without changing DNA sequence. These chemical tags respond to environment, diet, and experience. They can persist or change over time. Gene activity is shaped rather than rewritten. Regulation occurs silently within cells. Long-term patterns emerge gradually. Expression adapts without sound. As these unseen processes continue, they settle into steady rhythms. Movement, exchange, and balance flow beneath awareness. Nothing announces their presence. They simply carry on, moment by moment. The invisible world remains active as attention softens. Quiet systems keep everything gently in place.